I asked Jesus why we lose the people we love. I never thought the answer would break me. The night was quiet, but inside my heart, there was a storm. Keanu Reeves sat alone in a dimly lit room, staring at a small photograph of someone he had lost long ago. His eyes were heavy, but not from lack of sleep. They were heavy with memories, with questions that never found answers. Why do we meet people only to say goodbye? Why does life let us hold love for a moment and then take it away? Keanu whispered into the silence. If there is a reason, I want to know it. He was not speaking to anyone in the room, but deep inside, he was reaching for something greater, something unseen. And then, in that fragile moment, he felt a presence. It was soft yet powerful, calm yet overwhelming. He did not see light or hear thunder. Instead, he felt peace settle over his broken heart, as if someone was listening. His breathing slowed. The world outside seemed to disappear. Keanu closed his eyes, and in the stillness he whispered again, Jesus, why do we lose the people we love? Suddenly a voice stirred within him, not a voice of sound but of spirit. It spoke with gentleness, but its weight carried through every corner of his soul. You do not lose them, my child. You carry them, you learn from them, and you give the world what they once gave you. Keanu's heart pounded. He wanted to believe, but the pain of loss was too heavy. But it hurts, he answered inside his spirit. Every day it hurts. I smile in front of the world, but behind closed doors I break. I do not know how to keep living with this emptiness. The voice grew warmer, wrapping around him like a hand over his heart. Your pain is not weakness. It is proof that you have loved deeply. When you grieve, you honor the gift of love that was placed in your life. Do not see it as punishment. See it as a reminder that love is real. A single tear fell down Keanu's face. His breath shook. For years he had carried sorrow silently, never letting the world see the depth of his wounds. Yet in this moment, it was as if heaven itself was touching those hidden scars. Jesus' voice whispered again, Every soul you loved leaves behind a piece of themselves inside you. They are not gone. They are seeds planted in your heart. When you act with kindness, when you choose patience, when you lift others in their darkest hour, you water those seeds. They live again through you. Keanu clenched the photograph tighter. His hands trembled, but not only with pain. Now there was something else, something like hope. But then he asked the question he feared the most. Why do they have to leave at all? Why can't love stay forever? The silence that followed stretched heavy. It felt like eternity inside 1 second. Then the voice answered, soft but steady, because Earth was never meant to hold eternity. Love must pass through loss to teach you its true strength. You will not see it now, but one day, when your journey is done, every piece of love you ever gave and every person you ever missed will be waiting for you. Nothing is truly lost. The word struck him like thunder and healed him like rain. He had never thought of it this way. Maybe love was not stolen by death. Maybe love was only hidden for a while, waiting to return in full. The night outside grew darker, but inside Keanu, a small light began to shine. His tears did not stop, but they no longer burned. They felt like rivers cleansing wounds that had been buried for too long. And as he sat in that silence, he whispered back to the unseen voice, If they live through me, then I will not waste this gift. I will carry them by carrying kindness. Jesus' voice grew quiet, but before fading, it left him with one final line. Your loss is not the end of love. It is the beginning of eternity. Keanu opened his eyes slowly. The photograph still lay in his hand, but it no longer felt like a reminder of emptiness. It felt like a promise that love never dies. It only changes form. That night, for the first time in many years, he slept in peace. Keanu woke the next morning with a strange calmness inside him, like a wound had been gently wrapped but not yet healed. The photograph still lay on the table beside his bed, its corners worn, its colors fading, yet its meaning sharper than ever. He reached for it slowly, whispering to himself, They live through me. But as he spoke those words, a question pressed harder than before. How could he carry them when the world around him seemed determined to drown him in loneliness? He walked through the city that day, blending into the crowd the way he always did. People brushed past, busy with their own lives, unaware that the man moving quietly among them was holding a storm inside his chest. He noticed the small things: a child tugging at her mother's hand, an old man feeding pigeons, a busker playing a guitar with broken strings. Each sight hit him like a memory. The child reminded him of laughter once shared. The old man reminded him of wisdom once lost. The guitar reminded him of broken dreams. Suddenly he heard the words from last night echo again. They are seeds planted in your heart. He wondered if these strangers were part of that. Was every face he saw a chance to water those seeds? Could his pain become something more than just sorrow? Yet, even as these thoughts grew, a darker shadow pulled at him. Because grief is never simple. It does not vanish with one kind word. It lingers, testing every ounce of strength. As he passed a quiet alley, his eyes caught a young boy sitting on the ground, shivering in the cold. The boy's clothes were torn, his shoes barely holding together. He looked no older than 10. Keanu felt a sudden pull in his chest. He remembered his own struggles, his own nights of emptiness. Without thinking, he walked toward the boy. The child looked up, startled, ready to run. But Keanu knelt down slowly, keeping his voice gentle. "Are you hungry?" he asked. The boy hesitated, then nodded, his eyes tired but hopeful. Keanu reached into his pocket, pulling out a small pack of bread he had bought earlier. He offered it to the child, who grabbed it with both hands, eating as if he hadn't seen food in days. In that moment, something shifted inside Keanu. It was as if the voice from last night whispered again, "When you act with kindness, you water the seeds." But the boy surprised him. After eating a few bites, he stopped and broke the bread in half. With small, trembling hands, he offered the rest back to Keanu. "You eat too," the boy said. Keanu froze. This boy, with nothing, still chose to give. His throat tightened and tears burned behind his eyes. "No," Keanu whispered, gently pushing the bread back. "It's for you." But the boy insisted, his small eyes glowing with quiet strength. That night, Keanu could not forget what had happened. He lay awake, staring at the ceiling, the boy's face still etched in his mind. It reminded him of the words Jesus had spoken. Love does not die, it lives through acts that carry its spirit forward, but questions haunted him. Why had he met that boy? Was it chance or was it part of the message? Was every meeting in life a hidden thread, weaving a story we could not yet see? The next day, as if the universe wanted to test him again, another encounter shook him. At a small cafe, he overheard a woman arguing on the phone. Her voice cracked as she said, "I can't afford the medicine. I don't know what to do." She ended the call, covering her face with her hands. Keanu felt his chest ache. Part of him wanted to walk away. He had his own pain, his own battles. But another part of him remembered the boy in the alley. He remembered the bread broken and offered back to him. He stood, walked to the counter, and quietly paid for her bill along with a little extra, asking the cashier to use it toward her next visit. When the woman learned what he had done, her eyes filled with tears. She rushed to thank him, but Keanu only smiled softly and said, "Carry it forward." That phrase echoed in his head all day. Carry it forward. Was this what Jesus meant? That the love we lose must be carried forward into others, into moments of kindness, into acts that seem small but are greater than we know. Still, even as these moments gave him light, the nights brought the darkness back. Alone in his room, the emptiness returned like a shadow that would not let go. One evening, he broke down completely. He knelt on the floor, clutching the photograph, and cried, "Jesus, if I carry their love forward, who will carry me?" The silence was heavy, stretching into the walls. Then, slowly, the same voice he had heard before returned. "When you give love, you are carried too. Every act of kindness builds a bridge, and on that bridge you are never alone." Keanu pressed his forehead to the floor, his tears soaking the photograph. He wanted to believe, but his heart still ached. Yet deep down, he felt something beginning to grow. A seed planted long ago was finally being watered, not by someone else, but by his own trembling hands. And for the first time, he realized, grief was not the end of love. It was the soil in which new love could grow if only he dared to plant it. Keanu thought the message was becoming clearer. He believed every act of kindness was like carrying a small piece of the people he had lost. But deep inside, He wondered if he was strong enough to continue, because grief does not vanish in a day, and healing is not a straight road. It bends, it breaks, it tests. One late evening, as the city lights flickered like tired stars, Keanu wandered into a quiet church. He had not planned it. His feet simply carried him there, as if pulled by something greater. The wooden doors creaked as he pushed them open, and the faint smell of old candles filled the air. The church was nearly empty except for an old man sitting in the front row, head bowed, hands folded in prayer. Keanu sat in the back, unsure of what he was looking for. He stared at the tall cross glowing under soft light. It reminded him of sacrifice, of pain carried for love. He whispered under his breath, "Jesus, I am trying, but why does it still hurt so much?" Suddenly, the old man at the front turned. His eyes, though dim with age, carried a strange light. He walked slowly toward Keanu, leaning on a cane. When he reached him, he smiled gently and said, "You have questions, don't you?" Keanu nodded, surprised. "Yes, I've lost people I love, and I don't know how to live without them." The old man sat beside him, lowering his cane to the floor. "I lost my wife 50 years ago," he said softly. "For years I thought life had ended with her. But then I discovered something. Grief is love that has nowhere to go. So I gave it away. I gave it to strangers, to children, to anyone who needed it. And in giving it away, I found her again." Keanu's heart trembled. The man's words echoed the voice he had heard before, the voice of Jesus. "So you're saying love never leaves?" Keanu asked. The old man nodded. "It doesn't leave, it transforms. The more you give, the more you realize they're still with you." But then the man leaned closer, his eyes sharp yet kind. "But there's one more thing, son. You must forgive yourself." The words hit Keanu like lightning. Forgive himself? For what? Guilt flooded his chest. He had never spoken of it aloud, but deep inside he carried regrets. Times he felt he could have done more, said more, loved better. His voice broke. "I can't. I failed them. I should have been there." The old man placed a trembling hand on his shoulder. "Love is not measured by perfection. It's measured by presence, and you were present. That's enough. Now forgive yourself, or the pain will keep you chained." Keanu's eyes filled with tears. He wanted to believe the man, but guilt had grown roots in his heart for years. Could forgiveness really set him free? Before he could ask again, the old man stood and whispered, "Remember this. Even Jesus forgave those who knew not what they did. Why not forgive yourself, who only knew how to love?" Then he walked slowly out of the church, leaving Keanu stunned. That night, Keanu dreamed. He found himself standing in a vast field of golden light. In the distance, he saw the faces of those he had lost, smiling, peaceful, glowing with warmth. He reached out, tears flowing, but before he could touch them, Jesus appeared. His presence was calm, his eyes filled with love deeper than the ocean. Keanu cried out, "Please, let me hold them again." Jesus shook his head gently. "Not yet, but you can hold them here." He touched Keanu's chest right over his heart. "And when you forgive yourself, you will see them more clearly than ever before." Keanu fell to his knees, sobbing. "But I don't know how to let go of the guilt." Jesus knelt beside him, his hand resting over Keanu's trembling shoulders. "You let go by giving what they gave you. Give love, give kindness, give patience. Every time you do, you free yourself. Forgiveness is not forgetting. It is choosing to love even when you are broken." When Keanu awoke, his pillow was wet with tears. The dream had felt so real, as if he had truly stood in that field. He sat up, clutching his chest where Jesus had touched him, and then, as if life wanted to test him again, he received a phone call. It was from an old friend he had not spoken to in years. The friend's voice cracked as he explained his daughter was sick and the family had no money for her treatment. Keanu listened quietly, his heart aching. This was his moment. He remembered the dream, the church, the old man's words. He could let guilt keep him chained, or he could give what love had taught him. Without hesitation, he promised to cover the expenses. The friend wept on the phone, unable to speak from gratitude. After the call ended, Keanu sat in silence, his eyes wet but his heart lighter. For the first time, he realized something important. Every time he chose kindness, every time he gave instead of holding back, he was not only helping others, he was healing himself. Ending line for part 3. Keanu did not know it yet, but this step toward forgiveness would soon lead him into a trial that would push him to his breaking point, a test that would show whether love truly was stronger than loss. Keanu believed he was beginning to understand the message that had been whispered to his heart. Forgiveness, kindness, carrying love forward. These lessons had started to bring light into the dark corners of his soul. But life has a way of testing even the strongest lessons. Just when we think we are healing, something comes to shake the ground beneath our feet. And for Keanu, that moment was about to come. It happened on a rainy evening. The sky was heavy, gray clouds pressing down on the city like a blanket of sorrow. Keanu was on his way home when he noticed a small crowd gathered near the corner of a busy street. Their faces were pale, their voices urgent. Curiosity and concern pushed him closer. As he stepped through the crowd, his heart sank. There, on the ground, was a young man lying still, his motorcycle shattered beside him. Keanu's chest tightened. The boy's face reminded him of someone he had once loved, someone he had lost. Without thinking, he rushed forward, kneeling beside the stranger. The crowd hesitated, some frozen in fear, others waiting for someone else to act. Keanu took the boy's trembling hand and whispered, "Hold on. You're not alone." The ambulance arrived moments later. But by then, Keanu had already given part of himself to the boy through his words, through his presence. As the medics lifted the boy onto the stretcher, his eyes fluttered open for a brief second, meeting Keanu's. And in that fragile moment, Keanu saw both pain and peace in his gaze, as if the boy knew he was being carried, even by a stranger. That night, Keanu could not sleep. The boy's face haunted him. He didn't even know if the young man had survived, and memories came rushing back, faces of those he had lost, voices he could no longer hear. It was as if the universe had torn open the wound he thought was beginning to close. He whispered into the silence, "Jesus, why do you keep showing me loss? Am I cursed to feel this pain forever?" The silence stretched long, but then the same voice returned, calm yet unshakable. "I am not showing you loss. I am showing you life. Every time you stand with someone in their suffering, you stand with me. Every time you lift another soul, you lift yourself. Pain is not the curse. Indifference is." The words pierced deep. Keanu wanted to believe them, but the pain was heavy. And then something happened that pushed him even further. 2 days later, he received a call. His friend's daughter, the one he had helped, had taken a sudden turn for the worse. He rushed to the hospital, his heart pounding, fear clawing at his chest. When he arrived, he saw the little girl lying in bed, tubes connected to her small body. His friend stood beside her, his face pale with worry. Seeing the child so fragile broke something inside Keanu. He sat at her bedside, holding her tiny hand. "You are stronger than you think," he whispered softly. "Don't give up." The girl opened her eyes slowly, and in a faint voice she asked, "Will I see the people I love again?" The question hit him like a blade. Here was a child asking the same thing he had asked Jesus. He swallowed the lump in his throat and whispered, "Yes, you will." Love never leaves. It waits for us. As he spoke those words, a strange warmth filled the room, as if heaven itself had entered quietly. The girl smiled faintly before drifting back into sleep. Keanu sat there, tears falling, realizing that his pain was now becoming his strength. His wounds allowed him to speak to others in theirs, but the test was not over. Later that week, he received the news that the young man from the accident had not survived. The weight of it crushed him. He found himself back in the church, kneeling before the cross, his body shaking. "Jesus!" he cried. "I can't take this anymore. Every time I try to carry love forward, death meets me again. Why do you let me suffer like this?" This time, the voice did not answer immediately. The silence pressed heavy, testing his patience, testing his faith. But then slowly it came, soft, steady, like rain after a drought. "Keanu, you are not suffering alone. I carry this pain with you, and I will show you something. Loss may break your heart, but it will also open it wider. And in that space, more love will enter. You are not cursed. You are chosen to carry light into the dark." Keanu's tears did not stop, but they changed. They were no longer tears of despair, but of surrender. For the first time, he whispered back, "Then use me. If I must carry this pain, let it become someone else's hope." The following morning, he returned to the hospital, bringing books, toys, and laughter to the children's ward. He read stories, played games, and listened to their fears. Each smile he received, each hand he held, watered the seeds of love he thought he had lost forever. Yet deep down, he knew this was only the beginning of something bigger. Because while he had chosen to be light for others, a storm was approaching, one that would force him to face his greatest fear and his deepest regret. The storm came without warning. Keanu had thought he was finally finding balance, visiting the hospital, comforting children, carrying forward the love of those he lost. But life has a way of striking hardest when we think we are steady. One morning, as he sipped coffee in the quiet of his home, he received a letter that made his hands tremble. It was not an email or a phone call. It was a handwritten envelope placed carefully under his door. The handwriting was familiar. His heart froze. When he opened it, the words inside shook him to the core. It was from a woman he once loved deeply, someone whose loss had left one of the deepest scars in his heart. But this letter was not from the past. It was from her sister. The letter read, "Keanu, I thought you should know. Before my sister passed, she wrote a message for you that she never sent. I found it only recently. I believe you deserve to read it." His hands shook as he unfolded the note inside. The paper was worn, the ink smudged. His breath caught as he saw her handwriting. "Dear Keanu," it began, "I know you carry guilt for not being there at the end, but I want you to know. You were always there for me, in every smile, in every small act of kindness, in every quiet moment we shared. Please don't let my absence become your chain. If you want to honor me, love others the way you loved me. Carry it forward. I will always be with you." Keanu broke down. The tears came heavy, unstoppable, falling onto the letter as if his soul was finally releasing years of buried grief. He whispered into the empty room, "I'm sorry. I'm so sorry." And for the first time, he felt her forgiveness reaching him through those words. But the storm did not end there. Later that week, as he walked into the hospital, he found the children's ward quiet and heavy. The little girl whose hand he had held, the one who had asked if she would see her loved ones again, had grown weaker. Doctors were unsure if she would survive the night. Keanu sat by her side, his heart breaking. The machines beeped softly, her breathing shallow. He held her tiny hand again and whispered, "You are not alone. You are loved." The girl opened her eyes faintly and whispered back, "I'm not afraid anymore." "Because you said love never leaves." Then she closed her eyes again. Keanu's tears flowed. He wanted to scream, to beg for her life. But inside, he felt Jesus whisper, "Love her now in this moment. Don't fear what tomorrow may bring. Be her strength now." So he stayed by her side the whole night, telling her stories, singing softly, holding her hand. He poured every ounce of love he had into her, not knowing if it would be their last night together. But in the middle of that night, something extraordinary happened. As Keanu drifted into a light sleep by her bedside, he dreamed again. This time, he was standing at the edge of a river. On the other side, he saw the faces of all those he had lost, smiling, glowing in the light. And among them, the girl stood, healthy and radiant, waving to him. Jesus appeared beside him once more and said, "Do you see? Death is not the end. Love crosses the river. The ones you love will wait for you. But until then, carry their love to those still on your side." Keanu woke with tears streaming down his face. When he looked at the little girl, she was still alive, her small chest rising and falling. He realized something powerful. Whether she lived or passed on, love would never be defeated. The following days tested him further. Rumors spread about his visits to the hospital, about his quiet acts of kindness. Some people mocked him, saying he was doing it for attention. Others questioned his faith. The weight of their words stung, reopening old wounds of being misunderstood. One evening, as he left the hospital, a man confronted him. "You can't save everyone," the man said harshly. "You're just a fool wasting your time." Keanu paused, his heart heavy but calm. He looked into the man's eyes and said softly, Maybe I can't save everyone, but if I can give love to even one soul, then it's not wasted." The man had no reply. Keanu walked away, his steps slow but steady, his spirit growing stronger. Still, the storm pressed on. One night, when the rain poured heavy against his window, Keanu fell to his knees again. "Jesus," he whispered, "I am trying to carry love forward, but the pain never ends. How do I keep walking when the road is endless?" The voice returned, steady as ever. You do not walk alone. Every act of love creates light, and light travels farther than you can see. Even when you feel empty, the light you have given shines in places you will never know. That is how you keep going." Keanu pressed his forehead to the floor, his tears soaking the carpet. He realized that his mission was not to escape pain, but to let pain become a doorway to greater compassion. As dawn broke, he rose to his feet with a new strength. He knew storms would come, but he also knew storms could not put out the light of love. Keanu thought he had already faced the hardest storms, but the final trial was still waiting. It came on a night when the city seemed too quiet, as if the world was holding its breath. He had spent the day at the hospital, bringing smiles to the children, offering comfort to tired parents, and leaving quietly as he always did. But when he returned home, he found something that made his hands tremble again. Another letter slipped under his door. This time, the handwriting was not familiar. It was shaky, uneven, almost desperate. He unfolded the paper and his eyes scanned the words. "Keanu, I don't know if you remember me. I am the brother of the young man who died in that motorcycle accident you witnessed. I heard you were there in his last moments. Please, I need to know, was he alone, or did someone care for him before he left this world?" Keanu's chest ached. The letter pulled him back into that rainy night, kneeling beside the boy, holding his trembling hand. Tears filled his eyes as he whispered to himself, "He wasn't alone. I was there. I held him." The next day, Keanu met the boy's family. They sat in a small, dimly lit room, their faces pale with grief. The boy's brother looked at him with trembling eyes and asked, "Did he suffer?" Keanu swallowed hard, his voice breaking. "He was in pain, yes, but he wasn't alone." I held his hand. I told him to hold on, and in that moment I saw peace in his eyes. He knew he was loved, even by a stranger. The boy's mother wept, covering her face, while the brother grabbed Keanu's hands tightly, whispering, "Thank you. Thank you for being there when we couldn't." Keanu left their home shaken, but also humbled. He realized the truth in what Jesus had told him. Love never leaves, and no one truly dies alone when love is present. That night, as he walked home under the starlit sky, he felt the presence again. The air grew still. The city sounds faded, and his heart filled with warmth. Jesus' voice returned, soft but powerful. "You have carried the weight of loss with courage. You have turned grief into love and love into light. Now I will answer the question that has burned in your heart since the beginning. Why do we lose the people we love?" Keanu stopped walking, tears already forming. His voice cracked as he whispered, "Yes, please. I need to know." The voice spoke with a calm that shook him deeper than thunder. "You do not lose them. You are never losing, only learning. When a soul leaves, it does not vanish. It becomes part of you, guiding you, shaping you, teaching you how to love more deeply. Loss is not the end of love. Loss is the doorway to eternity. One day, when your journey is finished, you will see every face again. Every hand you once held, every tear you once shed turned into joy. Until then, you must be the bridge between heaven and earth. You must let love live through you." Keanu fell to his knees in the middle of the empty street, his tears flowing freely. He finally understood. Love was not stolen by death. It was transformed, waiting to return in eternity. His pain had not been punishment. It had been preparation. He whispered into the night, "Then I will carry it forward every day until my last breath." In the days that followed, Keanu became more than just an actor known to the world. He became a quiet messenger of love, touching lives in ways unseen, comforting strangers, lifting the broken, reminding anyone who would listen that love never truly dies. And when people asked him how he found the strength to keep giving despite the losses he carried, he would smile softly and answer, "Because love is stronger than death. It is the one thing we take with us into eternity. And in his heart, he knew the truth. He had asked Jesus why we lose the people we love, and the answer had not broken him. It had rebuilt him.